Welcome to this broadcast of 5 Minutes. I am your host, Billy. Today we will be looking into the lives and thoughts of citizens from District 14. What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Well, as far as in the game, I was pretty good at getting the money for my business that people agreed to pay, but unfortunately for me, I wasn't the greatest negotiator as far as getting the prices up so that I could make a good profit. So I could probably work with other people to try and figure out a good price for both myself and them so that they don't have to pay very much, but I could also make a decent profit.
What about the experience shocked you, and what have you learned from it?
It really shocked me how Brian, our president, who everyone thought was really great, was scheming to take over the entire country and destroy us all.
Agreed.
So that really shocked me.
Agreed. What did you really learn to understand about law, government, and society?
I really started to understand that some laws that the government passed that seem really great can lead to really negative effects, and some of these laws that seem great sometimes can even let your president take over the whole country and destroy everybody.
How has the simulation prepared you for reality?
I feel like it's taught me that I need to pay attention more to what the leaders in politics are doing so that I know if something bad is going to happen before it happens.
Has the simulation changed your outlook or your attitude?
Yes, it has. At the beginning, I looked at this more as a fun experience, but after completing it, there were a lot of life applications that it applied to as far as, like the court cases. There were so many of those that actually seemed legitimate as far as the procedure and how the judge took into account the jury's votes when deciding punishment. And
What about the experience did you find frustrating, depressing, upsetting, and what can you learn from it?
Well, I found it depressing and upsetting that even though when I was saying that Brian was going to take over, nobody was listening to me, and then in the end, Brian admitted that he was scheming to take over the entire time, so that was a little depressing to me.
Brian was actually a socialist but ended up being our president. That was quite frustrating.
What can you learn from it?
I think what we can really take away from this is that we should look further into the past and what our leaders' values are really in.
And in conclusion to this broadcast, we have seen that our students have grown in many fields in the simulation. Okay. Thank you for your time. That's all the questions that we have for you. And how could you improve society?
Well, I mean, I could just follow the price ceilings like the law requires, and then we won't have to deal with as many court cases, and our legal system would be more fluent.
What was the most shocking thing that happened in this simulation?
The most shocking thing was probably when Brian announced that he was basically going to screw us all over and take over all the businesses. So I think it was really great that I sold it to him before he could screw me over.
What did you really learn to understand about law and government and society?
Well, I think it was really a learning experience for the government part, as far as seeing all the different things that we did in the class as far as the legislative event, so that we put in good arguments against each other to find a way to get to the common good for all the citizens, in at least in the first one. But as we saw in the second legislative event, we sort of went into more of an arguing state and didn't really accomplish as much as we had in the first one. And society basically doesn't work without a strong government to follow what is happening in real time. I mean, if the government's behind on legislature, then nothing really benefits from that.
How has the simulation prepared you for reality?
Well, I've come to understand more about how legislature works through the simulation, as far as during the second event when some of the bills were not passed right away and had to go through several reform minutes, and the president didn't always agree with what the House and Senate were discussing.
What about the experience did you find frustrating, upsetting, and depressing?
I mean, it was sort of depressing how all the capitalists were actually successful in their attempts to basically make bank and take all the money out of the economy for everybody else, and how
Hi, this is Billy with a former representative in the government, Jack. And I'm going to ask you some questions. I just want you to answer them as honestly as you can. Okay, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and what could you do to improve yourself and society?
Well, I think one of my major weaknesses is that I sometimes don't listen to what other people are saying, and I like to argue a lot for what I believe in. So I feel like that's one of my main weaknesses, and to improve on that, I feel like I could just start working with others better and not being so narrow-minded on just my beliefs.
Okay. And has the simulation experience changed your attitude or outlook?
It has changed my attitude and outlook. Now, after the simulation, I realized that a lot of people don't share the same beliefs and views as me, so I now realize that I need to start working with others more to compromise because a lot of people are really far away from what I think.
Okay, that's all we have for you. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.